What's going on everyone, I'm Rohan, a fourth year medical student currently studying at Cardiff University, and today I'm going to go over my personal statement and to show you how to write a banging one. Remember, this is my interpretation of my medical school personal statement. Do not copy it or I will come and find you, and that goes your medical school. Bye bye. Let's get into it. So first I'm going to go over the introduction of my personal statement. Oof, look at this absolute unit of a sentence. Let me read you it. Despite the ever-changing choices for the current undergraduate, I believe that medicine is the right choice for me. Right, so let's break down that sentence and let me tell you how to write the perfect starting sentence. The first thing that you want to do is make sure that you never put, I believe I have always wanted to do medicine since the age of 5, because that is a whole load of bull. What you need is a sentence that's going to capture the reader into making you think that you actually really want to do this subject. You want to talk to your family. You want to talk to your teachers, you want to talk to your... You want to figure out a sentence and stick with it. Remember, if it's bad then you can always change it, but make sure that you initially start and get the draft in. That's the hardest part of this entire personal statement. So what I did to find my perfect first sentence was that I looked online and I made sure to analyze every single piece of literature that I could to make sure that I did not want to add those things. Another thing that you can do is that you can look at previous personal statements. So I know there are a bunch of websites which actually have templates, but obviously you don't want to copy any of these. You just want to get a pretty good outline of things that you want to write. Alright, come take a look at this. What was I thinking? I put a quote in my personal statement, and the quote is as written. As Hippocrates said, wherever the art of medicine is loved, there is also a love of humanity. What was I thinking?
Chills, literal chills.
You know what, if somebody told me how my personal statement was written, this is probably how it went. Hey Rohan, how's your personal statement going? Oh yeah, it's going good. I've got a quote in it. It's by a guy that you probably know, Hippocrates. Flex. Now let's actually go into what my personal statement was like. I want to go into things a bit more deeper than just going on the surface and absolutely roasting what I wrote. So the first part that I actually want to analyze is within my first paragraph, and it basically explains why I wanted to do medicine. So the personal statement reads as follows. Satisfying my humanitarianism began at an early age through assisting my grandmother in caring for my uncle who was diagnosed with tuberous sclerosis at a young age. So let's delve into this deeper. I'm already giving the reader something to read more about. They want to know what I've learned from helping my grandmother. They want to know what skills I've gained from helping her and learning more about the condition. Remember, this is probably the first time that your university or even the reader is probably ever heard about you or read anything by you, and it's probably going to be the last time as well, because obviously you're going to be getting that interview and you're going to be getting into medical school.
It's success!
Anyway, you want to broadcast your skills properly. Like I said in my sentence, satisfying my humanitarianism. I'm definitely showcasing that I'm showing my empathy and showing that I'm able to work with people other than myself in situations like this. You don't want the reader to try and figure out what skills you've learned. The reader has probably read a million types of personal statements, so you have to make it very easy to convey the skills which you have learned right onto the piece of paper. You don't want the reader trying to figure out anything because they probably haven't got enough brain power to do that anymore. After a million reads of the same thing, you're gonna get kind of tired. They don't want to be trying to figure out what baking has anything to do with medicine. You got to tell them, for example, baking could show that you're dedicated, that you have the ability to learn different skills, that you're patient. Remember, when you're cooking brownies, you gotta let them rest. Otherwise, they're gonna be nasty. They ain't gonna be fudgy, that kind of thing. You wanna tell the reader and you wanna tell the university the specific skills which you have gained from your accomplishments and from the things that you have done within your personal statement. Easy peasy. Squeeze the lemon. So this paragraph, as you're probably aware, is quite personal. So when making a personal statement, you want to make it personal because it's a personal statement. It shows the reader and the university that you're a serious candidate about why you want to do medicine. Remember to sneak that in nice and early, because without that, why are you actually applying? They don't care. They just want to know why you want to do medicine and what you can give to them as a medical student. As you're probably aware by now, my personal statement including the term tuberous sclerosis. Medicine fact! Tuberous sclerosis is a rare genetic condition which causes benign, non-cancerous growths or lesions to be present all around the body. The tumors mainly affect brain, skin, kidneys, heart, the eyes, as well as the lungs. So these type of patients can have any sort of symptoms, ranging from seizures to problems breathing and even kidney cancer. So my point about wanting to do medicine because of my uncle is a very valid reason, opposed to somebody going,
I wanted to do medicine because I watched Grey's Anatomy.
Now I'm going to go into the next part, which is about the structure of your personal statement. So the structure of my personal statement was introduction, why medicine, work experience, the wider reading and study that I did, volunteering, extracurricular activities, and then finally finally the conclusion. So the structure of a personal statement allows you to put a bunch of information into niche little topics so that it's easier for your reader, aka the university, to get a better example of you as a whole, because you're putting yourself into different categories and making it a lot easier for them to read it. You get me? So my second paragraph was about the work experience that I did. So in your work experience, what you want to do is that you want to go over briefly what you did in your work experience. But the main point that I emphasize here is that you have to write what you learned. There's no point in writing all the stuff that you saw but not saying that you learned anything from it. If you say that you learned something from it, it shows that you are intuitive and that you take in information and that you think about that information and try to come up with a conclusion. The point of this is that you come up with answers, and the fact that you can come up with diagnosis just like you would if you're a medical student. So the example that I gave in my personal statement was the fact that I have seen a low volume steroid injection and I witnessed 2 cesarean sections. I've said what I've seen during the work experience. Now at the end of the paragraph, I said what I've learned. At the end of the paragraph, I wrote as follows. Throughout my placements, I was immersed in the rapid thinking lives of doctors and thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Remember, you haven't gone to medical school yet. They're not expecting you to know what a C-section is or how to perform a low volume steroid injection. They just want to know what you learned personally from the experience. They don't want you to be like, a C-section begins with a horizontal abdominal incision followed by a uterine incision. Nah, none of that. They just want to know that you've gained an insight into the life that you've chosen to lead. It's a long, grueling process, but it has a very rewarding career, and they just want to make sure that you know that. So the next part of my personal statement is the extra reading and study that I did. Make sure you read something to do with medicine, not just to say it in your personal statement. No, but seriously, reading around your topic in medicine will show that you actually have a keen interest in the subject and you're not just trying to do it because your parents are forcing you to. Some of you lot really need to think, do you really want to do medicine, or do mummy and daddy really want you to do medicine? It's just a choice. So in my personal statement, I mentioned that I read a book about the history of medicine, and that I attended multiple lectures, and that I also performed an EPQ. And I'm going to go into what all of these are into a bit more detail. Now, the book. So I still remember the book to this day, and it actually gave me a lot of insight into the history of medicine and what it was like and what it led up to nowadays. A little medicine fact. The reason that barbers have the red and white logo outside of their barbershop is the fact that barbers were initially the surgeons of, let's say, the medieval ages. I don't actually remember the time frame. So the reason that barbers were the surgeons was because they were the only people that had access to the tool that was required for surgery to occur. And that's why barbers nowadays have the red and white logo outside the barbershop, because the red symbolizes the blood and the white symbolizes the bandages. Little flex of my knowledge. Because I read that book, I had these little pieces of information, so if anyone did ask me about the information in the book, then I was able to recite it like I just did now. So the next thing was the Royal Society of Chemistry lectures. So I'm just going to go into a bit more detail about what the hell that even was. So like I said before, within my personal statement, I mentioned the fact that I went to lectures by the Royal Society of Chemistry. Don't get it twisted. I ain't some smart genius boy that got invited to do a lecture at the Royal Society of Chemistry. I paid for a ticket. That's all that it was. I paid student price of £7 to get a ticket to watch a lecture about high altitude medicine at the Royal Society of Chemistry. And you know what? That was probably one of the best things that I ever did, because it opened so many doors for me. I got to connect with doctors who were already working in the field. I got to learn a little bit about the topic. Because I got to learn about the topic, I was able to tell these things to the interviewer when I had my interviews eventually. So obviously nowadays, because of the whole situation with the pandemic, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to even go to lectures. So instead, what I've been doing, and what I suggest a bunch of you do, is to get free access. Because you're a student, get free access to various Royal Society of Medicine or chemistry lectures which are hosted on Zoom. At the end of a majority of these lectures, they supply you with a certificate, and the certificate can be used and included in your portfolio just to show that you have a keen interest in and around the field. It's super easy, it's super beneficial to your studying, and it's super beneficial in your process in getting into medical school or for F1 jobs. So now an EPQ. Now you're probably thinking, what the hell is an EPQ, man? What I'm going to be telling you is, an EPQ is an extended project qualification. What that basically means is that you write a 5,000 word essay on a topic of your choice and you present it to your peers. So the topic that I chose was, to what extent is sugar good for the body? That basically meant that I did a 5,000 word essay showing the pros and cons of why sugar was good for the body or bad for the body, and then I presented it to a panel of judges, aka one teacher and 5 of my friends, and then I was graded on that, and then at the end of it I was given half of an A level. So I basically did 3.5 A levels. That is my major flex. So within the EPQ, I was able to establish that sugar is also needed by the body. As you may know, glucose is a sugar and is required for respiration and living. Another thing that I learned during the process of the EPQ was the fact that sugar have similar mental effects to drugs like cocaine, in the way that they release dopamine. Because of this, I was able to establish a correlation and try and compare the two. The next part of my personal statement is about volunteering. So in your volunteering section, you want to make it similar to the work experience section. You want to say what you did very briefly, and then you want to say what you learned from these experiences. Some of the experiences that I did whilst volunteering was that I worked in a charity shop called Sue Ryder, I worked in an old people's care home, and I worked in a special needs day centre where special needs children would come and have fun for the entire day whilst they were on holiday or whilst their parents were at work. Make sure that your personal statement is personal. I cannot emphasize that enough. In your personal statement, you have to show that you can empathize, you can step into their own shoes, you can feel what they are feeling, their emotions. So in my personal statement, I mentioned the fact that whilst at the old people's care home, I was able to create friendships with multiple residents, and the fact that I was able to celebrate their 100th birthday. This shows the university that you are empathetic, that you can spend time with people, and that you were there long enough and you took enough notice of these people to celebrate their birthdays and share such exclusive and memorable moments. Here are some examples of volunteering things that you could do. You could work at a charity shop, you could help a neighbor, you could help a friend, you could work in a care home, work in a special needs home. I promise you, these experiences will last you a lifetime. There will be no regrets after you do it, or make you want to do medicine even more. So reading my personal statement, I also found that at the end of the paragraph, I mentioned something very important. So the personal statement is this: LHAP volunteering has enhanced my ability to cope under stressful conditions. For example, a boy with ADHD began to spontaneously cry for 15 minutes, and I was able to calm and comfort him in this stressful situation. Just picking out points of this sentence. So this sentence shows that I am caring, it shows that I am empathetic towards the kid, it shows that I am able to handle situations which are difficult and that are stressful. It also means that in this situation I was able to calm a patient down, which is a very difficult skill to obtain. So all of that combined, very key qualities which many medical students and doctors must have. So like I said, when you're mentioning these examples, you have to have key ideas about what these skills may show. Next part of my personal statement is about the extracurricular activities that I did. I cannot emphasize this enough. Have a life. Medicine isn't everything. Okay, now that that's settled, just do it. Obviously I said I do drama. I am an actor. But honestly, do whatever you want to do. Sports, music, art, drama. As long as it shows that you are someone that can do something else other than revise. And that's all that matters. Medicine is a grueling subject, and universities want to know that you're not going to go completely insane by doing nothing else but revise. You have to have other outlets of stress. So when you're including your extracurricular activities in your personal statement, like all the other subjects and all the other parts of the personal statement, you have to include what you have learned from this and what those extracurricular activities have given you. Some of the examples of the things learned from extracurricular activities are as follows. From sport, you could have leadership, time management, ability to follow instructions, ability to be dedicated. In drama, it could be public speaking, leadership, team working when you're working in a play, or time management. In art and music, it could be exactly the same. It could be time management, dedication, but all of these have one thing in common, and that is time management. People becoming doctors are increasingly left no time to themselves, and so most universities want to ensure that you can create that time for yourself by doing your extracurricular activities. When writing your extracurricular part, ensure to include key points that will highlight your strength. For example, if you're anybody like me, you like telling stories, and you like anyone to listen to those stories. So this is a real sentence, and a sentence that I wrote in my personal statement. So now I'm going to tell you a story, and just for reference, this was actually in my personal statement. Not word for word, but a very brief outline of it.
On the hike, first person does an Olympic level jump over the lake and the second person follows. My friend who cannot swim falls into the water. I design a human ladder to pull him from the water so he doesn't die. I am a hero.
Thank you. So the personal statement part was as follows. During my recent DOV expedition, I gathered a group to help another member escape out of a water-filled trench, where I was glad to convince my group to follow my lead during this stressful situation. So in this example, I basically killed two birds with one stone. I said that I was a leader, and I said that I can handle situations which are stressful, both which are key in medical students and doctors. Within my personal statement, in the extracurricular section, I also explained that I did a P-Cert Lambda. This involved me completing an essay and performing a monologue in front of a judge. That basically was the drama segment of my extracurricular activities, and it basically showed that I was able to time manage because I was doing something else other than revise, and also I was very good at public speaking, which is very much needed in doctoring, because as everyone knows, when you're talking to patients, you have to be fluent and you have to be articulate in the way that you are mannering yourself and the way that you're explaining your concept to your patients. And now, end of the personal statement, the conclusion, the final lines. You want to make sure that you have a crisp, clean ending sentence sentence so the person reading your personal statement actually remembers you. And hopefully, this is what it looks like. Oi, Dave, I like this one. Put him in the interview pile. Really, Dave? You sure? Yeah, let's give him an interview, eh? So my last sentence was as follows. I am determined to study medicine to gain useful knowledge about diseases and overcome logical problems when treating patients. Obviously, I know we didn't cover every single line of my personal statement, and hopefully we went over the key topics. I'll put the full screenshot of my personal statement here, just so that you guys can pause the video and you can have a look at it. Do not copy it because you will get plagiarized because they have a system, but good luck. So that about wraps up the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any more questions about your personal statement, about your interviews, then hit me up in the comments below. If you want to know how medical school is changing since the pandemic, then have a look at my last video. If you want to know how I remembered everything in medical school, then have a look at this video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. I want to see this channel grow. Let's go!